rounding out in 10th place. Also, Zyro being in 9th continues to stay on the leaderboard. I think Zyro today is sneakily making his way up with his crew. And who knows how far they can make their way up the leaderboard. But liking what I'm seeing so far, the fact that TBE has been so consistent 3 games in a row, puts themselves in second is a special thing. But Picnic still holding on, like you said. Diazbiffle, they're in 4th place. 4 more games to go, so there's a lot that can change. There's a lot that already has changed from game 1 to game 4, but game 5 is about to be electrifying. And this is where we reached a point space where teams start to get a bit dicey, a little bit aggressive. They find themselves outside of top 10, and now they want to make an impact. Well, game 5 is the time to do it.
They start taking some risks, and you have to at this point, this stage in the tournament, specifically because today is the 4th tournament we have, and really the last one before next week with whoever house wins. This is the most important part of the tournament. Around the halfway point, momentum starts to swing, and we see the call over the university to start. Hisoka and company, again, really doing a nice job of just staying the most consistent team. You could argue outside of, obviously, Biffle and company. They've been the most consistent squad for what feels like all 4 weeks. They've just consistently shown up and shown out in the biggest moment when it came down to making a late-game push. They can do the same here.
Kid. Fucking shit stain.
They're going to have a good result. Yeah, I think the vibes are pretty good right now.
Oh, for Hisoka, absolutely. Again, I said in the beginning, like, you know, with Hisoka, or at least after game 2 when they found themselves in 1st place,
yeah,
they had been in 2nd place in weeks 1, week 2, week 3. They fell off. You know, I've kind of said that so many times, but I mean, when they found themselves in 1st, I think it was kind of like an aha moment. Like, okay, we're in 1st place for the first time. We can actually do this. Diazbiffle isn't looking as dominating as he did in week 3. Now we're going to be the top dogs today, and Hisoka is that guy that once he turns up his energy, it just goes from 100%, which is where he's always at, up to a 500%, especially if his family is backing him up. And I think that's the energy we're getting from Hisoka at the moment. Miapo, Skullface, especially. So these boys, they're no one to play around with.
I think he just took down Scummin, if my eyeballs are not deceiving me. So, like, again, just finding crucial kills against big players in the lobby early on, not going to be too much of a problem, right? You do have the resurgence, but they are feeling it. Hisoka certainly getting excited, and I think that's what you want from this group. Knowing, I think they know the position they're in, right? Like, now is not the time to pull back. Now is the time to continue doing what you're doing, but also stay aggressive, because you got Biffle on your heels. You got Natasha making deep runs into these games. There are a lot of teams vying for that top 4 spot. Consistently put yourself in positions to be successful, and they've done so.
Absolutely. He's on the hunt. Kind of ratting it up a little bit. Might as well. Miapo, Skullface were down, but they're going to be back. Be back just in the nick of time. And now Hisoka back to business as usual. He'll push up. Now this is where things could get kind of interesting, because you've got Hisoka pushing up from the bottom. Up top, you had Miapo, Skullface kind of marking players and calling them out. Hisoka's got a lot of information now, but he's going to take his time. You kind of don't want to rush these staircases, but he's about at the top. And once he goes through that door, I think there's going to be some opponents waiting for him.
The way he's been talking, I mean, I would favor him in this matchup right now. I think it's a great chow. It is, and gets the knock as well. Nicely done. Takes down Huskerrs. Intex falls as well. A couple of players dropping quickly. And, I mean, do you blame him? Oh, a little bit, maybe. Maybe. Yeah, that's going to be a tough gunfight. I know you're feeling confident, but when you're weak, it's even more difficult. That was a risky chow.
It was a very risky chow. I was so surprised he didn't just get absolutely bodied when he went through the door, but he makes it through the door, but he was still a bit weak. I didn't check if he had plates left or not, but maybe that's why he made the push. He knew his situation wasn't going to get any better, and staying alive, especially with Resurgence still available, it's not really that worth it. Might as well make the Hail Mary play. If it works out, it works out. Smixy, though, they've been getting scrappy. This trio's been playing a lot better than we've seen in previous weeks. This might be the rockiest start we have seen them have just yet, but they'll be just fine. There's one more still remaining. Meanwhile, Joewo and co have switched up. They're landing. They are in a totally different spot as before, which I'm curious why they're switching it up. They've been playing very well today.
I mean, we've seen them choose this spot early back in week 2. They went here near the end of the tournament, but yeah, I think it led to a victory as well. But regardless, I mean, look, it's a different call, right? And that's what Game 5s are about. After you've hit the halfway point, you assess what worked in the first half, you work on what didn't, and if they felt that their drops could be a little bit more approachable to start from a different position, then sure. Change up the location. We'll see if it works out for them. Now's the time to make that adjustment. But they're also like in a good position in the leaderboard. So it is high risk, high reward. You don't want to give up too much and lose out. Regardless, though, back over to one of our premier teams here in week 4. It's Ahsoka again, but on your screen, Skullface. And it's been a question of, can they just hold on to the to the steering wheel in first place? So far, the answer is yes.
Skullface has been a reason, or a large reason, as to why today has gone so well, especially in the early games. Game 1, making heroic plays, picking up 3 pieces, getting his teammates back on their feet. Game 2, he was impactful in the very end, securing a second-place position. Good rotates from him through the smokes. I think at least nearing the edge of the water, he picks up a couple more elims and then ultimately finishes second place. And then Hisoka kind of took the reins from there, but Skullface has still very much been existent. Miapo's also had some great plays towards end-game. Great to see them on screen doing their thing. Skullface was sitting on 2. Hisoka, I believe, was on 4. Could be a high-scoring game. Sean J, back on your screen. We did a little bit of a listen-in during that Game 4 reset, and the vibes were high. They were encouraging each other. Intex was popping off. He had 7 eliminations. We're watching his perspective. Sean J has been a consistent player through week 1 all the way to now week number 4. Can't wait to see how well they're going to do here in game number 5. They've been kind of teetering on that top 10, but Sean J beamed out of the air.
The only question right now is she is so far away from the rest of her team. And I'm curious, obviously these players all have reasons that they change their approach, and they want to try different plays, or they just have an idea. They want to see how methodical they can get. But I am just curious. The stretch approach is just very different, especially this late in the tournament. Good shots, not enough though to clean up the kill. But I'm wondering what the call was like there, because she was so far out of the play. It couldn't have just been by accident. I think that was designed. It just didn't work out.
All right. See what Sean J is going to be up to, at least from her teammates' perspective. We got Intex on your screen, who has 3 eliminations. He seems to be the main slayer for this roster. Believe is always next to him, though. Like, keeping pace. So is Sean J. But I think Sean J is more of the anchor player. Intex is more of the, I'm going to go and be the tip of the spear, get in your face, and slay you out. Alongside that, I believe.
It's like right here, Shauna. Like right there.
First entry is usually Intex, you're right. That's why, like, whenever we see them drop early, he's usually one of the first ones to either find the kill or go down. Just because he is that aggressive player. He's one of the first pushes you're going to find. You get one. Swagg, huge callouts, and here comes the push. So this is where this trio thrives at when they start rotating into a gunfight. You don't want to see Z Colors or Super Evan working in tandem next to you. You got Swagg working from behind, able to find one, working on the second. Finally, this team is in a fight.
We're in a fight for sure. The high alert was going crazy. Swagg was out in the open. He was getting beamed. I thought he was going to be in a bit of trouble. I don't think he has spotted yet where that player was at. And I want to assume he's inside of the hard cover, but loadout time, we got that. Great, that's going to make your chances a bit better. Smokes are out, repositioning. They want to attack. In fact, I think they're wanting to join Z Colors, who is the first one who's trying to engage on this player. So there he is. You spot him on the roof. Simtek's going to be out, and this is going to give him an opportunity to push up. And you better believe they are coming in hot.
Yeah. Z Colors is going to stay low. So when he takes the first floor, you got Super Evan working with Swagg through the back. It's a very standard push from this trio. Keep Z Colors up front, keep him low. Everybody else falls back. You try to get Swagg some altitude to work with the AR. Super Evan's going to be the Guardian sub, which is usually the other way around. You want the AR kind of protecting the sub. This time, though, it is a bit flipped. We'll see what they're able to get up to, whether or not they survive that oncoming assault. But for now, we jump over to Enshian and Rias. Again, 2 players that are subbing in for FIFA Kill Squad. FIFA Kill and Oki both out. And so far, they've been having a pretty good day, but, nothing crazy.
Yeah, nothing crazy just yet. We've seen him a couple of times in some skirmishes, but for the most part, it's been relatively quiet. Rias was on our screen a much earlier in the game. Unfortunately for Enshian, gets pressured by 2, and he's going to drop. And that was Skullface and Miapo, who are now in this area. So Abwiz's crew just got their job just got a little bit harder. Now we're looking at a zone we have seen already. I want to say game number 1. And as we know, high ground is so important when the end zone ends up here, but there's going to be that layer kind of conversation, and even the water, which took place. Remember Smixy, we kind of questioned why she chose to stay in the water with her team as opposed to pushing up and trying to establish herself inside of this building. But once this building is locked down, you're going to have a team who's going to be on the middle level, who's going to be on the bottom level, who's going to be in the elevator shafts.
Yeah.
You've got a team, as we're seeing now for Huskerrs and Co, who's going to be up top. It's such a hard building to try and establish if you are late to the party, in which case a lot of teams who are rotating in are going to be late to the party.
I mean, this has become a natural POI as the tournaments progress, but more specifically today, it feels like we're already seeing a lot of hot drops here. But as the game progresses, this is where a lot of the slower AR players really like to kind of bring things down to a crawl. I still have worried feelings about, again, high ground with Huskerrs. It scares me a little bit just because of what we saw back in week 2. But in this spot, not entirely the worst situation to be in. I think Solidify found one.
I have a fuck ton here.
More players drop down. You can kind of hear the timid comms, right? Like they're reading info now. It's not about moving into position. It's not about making the next play. It's just about keeping your eyes on all the available players dropping down to your location, and then you start working through, all right, how do we take on these gunfights? Right now, they're just getting info.
You want to take your time because Resurgence is going to end relatively soon.
Bottom uni.
So at this point, everybody's going to be a bit more passive. Well, they know it's going to be riskier to rotate into zone. So Resurgence is now gone. And all your lives that you have, that's what you got, unless you got a flare or unless you got a pie station that's going to be close. And there's a couple of portable ones around. That's going to be beneficial. But the reality is, Huskerrs' crew with Saltify and Dongi, they're going to have a lot of those locations locked in. Not going to be easy to get. And so this is the problem you run into, and this is kind of where Smixy was a little bit earlier. You've got that water play ahead. You've got a little bit of cover, but for the most part, it's just a lot of empty space. So, and they've got to rotate in. They've got the gas to their back. So in about 30 seconds, they're going to be rotating into Saltify, who's going to have just free reign to beam them, as they're focused, of course, on the players who are dropping in. But it's so hard to be on the outside and try and work your way in.
And you're not just worried about the third partying from the water out to the street, but also just the myriad of angles in which you can get shot from. It's a tough rotation to win, which is why most teams don't want to do it. Speaking of very tough situations to be in, Crinks, Hadzi Jr., and Wars are not necessarily in the best spot. However, that smoke will help alleviate some of the pressure, doesn't entirely negate the play, but gives them a chance to get back in to the zone. Great shots, teammates there for support, and they find Smixy.
It's Smixy.
Okay.
Making a water play again. Trying to, anyways. Just on the edge. And that wasn't a team wipe. I think a couple more players from Smixy's roster still remains. So they're most likely going to be in this building that's been marked. Crinks and Wars are not going to waste any time. Junior's with them, too. As we know, when Resurgence ends and the zones get tighter, the teams start to get tighter as well so they can play for the trades. And a trade was there. Believe is gone. And that's going to be another trio gone. So now 10 trios remaining, 22 players left. But War's job is not over yet. They're not within a safe zone, and they've got to push forward. You got to remember, Huskerrs is still going to have that high ground. They haven't had to relinquish that yet, at least from the last time that we checked, which means Junior, Wars, they're going to be rotating straight into Saltify, straight into Huskerrs, who's going to be just absolutely beaming them, but they're more concerned with what's taking place behind them than what's in front.
A couple of castle pings as well, so they're kind of pinched in a very tough spot here. And extra pings, I mean, clearly they're getting pushed. We've seen this before from Huskerrs. Again, it's scary, but you got to be ready for the next one. Rated will take down Huskerrs. Belk takes down Solidify. Nice. And okay, that is a huge wipe right there to regain that power position, as I believe that was Belk, Aydan, and Rated who make the move.
All right, that could be a strong finish from them. They were not in top 10. They were in top 10 after game 1, but since then they've been pretty much non-existent. Will this be the game to finally break into top 10 and maybe even beyond? We watched Wars and Junior and Crinks push into Smixy, push into Sean J's crew. Thought it was going to be a lot riskier to rotate in, but with the battle kind of taking place up top between Aydan and Huskerrs, they weren't focused on Wars and them when they rotated in. Therefore, they were able to find some clearance, but the job job's not done just yet. In fact, it's going to continue to heat up. You got players on your flank. And Space Wars doesn't have any plate, so all the damage he takes, he's just going to have to take it for good. Self-revive coming through potentially. Junior just has to keep him alive. Junior will get the drop.
Wow.
The self-revive will be popped. Can Junior get back on his feet in time?
Yeah, but he's so weak. You do have to be careful. I think Swagg went down and attracted as well. So again, just huge members from different trios that fall. You get one plate. You literally get one plate in a dream, but there's one on the roof. And now you have to make the most dangerous rotation we might have seen all of today, certainly in a long time. You do not have the high ground. You have the shots, but they have the angle on you. You got to be careful here.
Careful indeed. The fact that they're still alive now is honestly miraculous. They're going to have a high placing regardless. They were already well within top 5, and this game could make them soar even higher, depending on who's alive. But yeah, they've got to rotate out. That player on the roof is Aydan. He's not going to let you get a free rotate. And in fact, he's going to pick up Wars. We kind of take a leap into the future. Junior also gone down to the top 2, and it looks like it's going to be, I believe, a 3v3.
You got 4 elims here for Aydan.
Yeah, he was all the way on the bottom of the ramp.
He'll make his move. Good shots. He's getting tagged, though, and he's got the zone to his back. He's got to be careful. There's nowhere to go for free. He will drop. Zepti cleans him up. And, of course, it's Natasha and company who survive into the late game yet again. One of the harder teams to fight in these last zones. They did it back in Game 4, here in Game 5. So close to getting a victory. Just a couple more players they need to clean up.
Ooh, but do you go up the ramp? Is it worth it? Do you go up the line? I don't think you do. Natasha might make a move. Yep, keeping track is going to be rated. Ooh, spots a player, can't get the angle, but it's worth it to drop, and he's going to be the aggressor. Nice shots, but not enough to get the finish, not enough to get the drop himself, but he's still feeling confident. The reach out comes through. He gets the drop and the full elimination. Turns around, he's going to be finished. And we might very well be down to a 2v1. Second place comes through. Natasha was down. Zepti and Inno go for the push. And I think that was enough to get the victory, if I'm not mistaken.
Man.
And it will be. The claps come in space. Natasha and crew will win game number 5. With how many eliminations? That's the question.
It really came down to, are they just going to play through the zone and take those ticks of damage? And it was just about timing. That was it. Like, they had this game secured. It was just about when they were going to make their move to clean up the final fight. And they do it. They allow Raiders to get overzealous. He pushes down. Didn't really have a choice. But they don't immediately fly out and take that challenge. They recognize that Aydan has pushed up. He falls. Raided has now pushed up. He's in a position to wipe you if you over-peak, so they don't throw shoulders. They sit back, they wait, they make sure they have their numbers they can stack, and then when they get an opportunity to strike, they do so. They move into the zone, and they clean up together. A nice dichotomy there in the end. I mean, that is what this trio does so well. This is what they were successful with in Game 4, how they snuck through and stayed alive, and why they're really difficult to kill in these situations, because individually, gun skill-wise, they're one of the best, but also they just know